Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Hope you're wonderful on this sunny Friday morning. Well, it's sunny here in Newcastle. Hopefully it's sunny where you are as well. And hopefully it carries on into the weekend. But this is not a weather broadcast. Today you are joining Michael and myself, and we are doing the quiz, which is the final webinar of the Management Report Series 2025. Now, the rules today are pretty much standard. Same as always. So your microphone, you're automatically muted. So if you need to cough or sneeze, you're not going to interrupt us. If you want to sing along to the radio, you can do. We are not going to be interjected whatsoever. I've also attached a handout to the quiz, which you can download at the end. And also, if you've got any questions, send them through on the speech bubble with the question mark. That would be fantastic if you could do that. So I'm just going to load up my system here. What we could do is go through what the quiz is going to cover. Everything that we've been looking at, essentially. So nominal records is going to be the first section. And we're going to move into questions on chart of accounts. We're going to move into some questions on management reports, then age reports, and then finally, the business dashboard, which was the final webinar hosted by Abby just yesterday, I believe. Now, how do you take part? If you've done one of these quizzes before, you'll know, but if not, let's just have a refresher. So it is just about testing your knowledge. Okay, we don't receive your grades, we don't mark your papers, as it were. This is all self-marked by yourselves, and it's just a chance to see what you've learned, or maybe knowledge gaps. You want to revisit and re-watch some of the webinars. So no stress levels or anything like that at all. Answer what you know as accurately as you can, and then at the end, decide what you may need to revisit. There's going to be 5 rounds, ones for each session of the badge. And again, just emphasize, we don't mark these. So it's just an honest pen in your hand when you're marking your own. That would be superb. To take part, I'm going to be uploading polls. And then what you'll do is select the correct answer or answers that you're going to be choosing. And then after an allotted period of time, usually around about when 70–80% of people have answered, what I'll do is I will close the poll, reveal the answers. Don't worry, your names and details aren't shared. It's just where the votes have went. And then once we've finished the round of questions, we're going to hand over to Michael and he'll go through the answers with you and also a couple of demonstrations as well. Again, all designed just to refresh your memory. This is all about taking part. It's all about having a bit of fun. And at the end of the webinar, by the end of the month, we're going to be sending out these digital badges for you to add to your emails, put on LinkedIn, share with your colleagues to say, yes, I am now proficient in Sage Management Reports 2025. You've probably seen these badges around on LinkedIn as well. People are starting to show them now, which is absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, let us begin with the first round, which is on nominal records, a webinar that I held at the start of this series. So question 1 is, which of these is not a type of nominal code? So which of these is not a type of nominal code? Is it bank account, nominal account, control account, or suspense account? So again, there are different types of nominal code that you can have, but what they're categorized in. And which of these is not one of those types of nominal code? When you're creating one, this is a good thought. What kind of ones can you create in that list, leaving one that you can't create? Some answers coming in, brilliant, flying in already. Do we cast our minds back to this? We're at 67% currently, just a few more to answer. You could even click along in your program for some of these. I'm going to close the poll there. And let's have a quick look at the answers. So, quite split. 42% say suspense account, that's the majority. 21% on bank account, 26% on nominal account, and 11% on control account. Again, Michael will reveal all when he's going through the answers. Next question. What is the default chart of account range for sales? So what is the default chart of accounts range for sales? Is it 2,000 to 2,299, 3,000 to 3,999, 4,000 to 4,999, or 7,000 to 8,999? Again, emphasis on default, because you may have created your own chart of accounts. You may have redesigned your nominal codes, but this is default. So the 4,000 to 4,999 is one of the answers there. Superb. Everybody is voting in. Again, I'm guessing that people may be using their program at the same time, which is wonderful. I'm going to close this poll momentarily. Just need a couple more votes to come in. Brilliant. Right, we're going to close that one there. So this is where the majority went. As you can see, we've got 90% of 4,000 to 4,099, it says there, but it's 4,999. We've also got 5% splits over 2,000 and 3,000 to 2,099 and 3,099. Superb. Let's go on to the next question. Where can you go to check your control accounts? So where is it? Where can you go to check your control accounts? Tools, control accounts, settings, company preferences and parameters, settings to control accounts, or view control accounts. Poll should be uploaded on your screen any moment now. Just again, where can you go to check your control accounts? Tools, control accounts, settings, company preferences, parameters, settings, control accounts, or view control accounts. So this is more of a geography question within the program. Where would it be? Again, some quick answers coming in. As soon as we get to that magic 70 to 80%, I shall close the poll. We shall share the answers. Nearly there now, so get your answers in. Brilliant. So I'm going to close that poll in 3 seconds. And there we are. Let's share the responses. So 74% go for settings, control accounts, 16% settings, company preferences, parameters, and 11% view control accounts. And with that being the final question in nominal records, let's hand over to Michael and he'll go through the answers.
Thank you, Matt. Right, okay, let's get running through some of the answers. Okay, so round one answers for nominal records. We'll start with that first question. First question being, which of these is not a type of nominal account, or nominal code, I should say? The answer to that one is suspense account. Suspense account does exist on your nominal codes, but it's not an account type. So if you want to check that one, it would just be a case of going into a nominal record. I'll quickly show you that one. So into a nominal record, so into nominal codes, into a nominal record, and it's this box here, the account type. So in there, you'll see either nominal account, If it's listed as a control account, it would say control account, or if it's one of your bank accounts, obviously it would list bank accounts. So bank accounts generally in the 1200 range. So a suspense account does exist. By default, it would be just about tagged onto the end of your nominal codes. So there it is, 9998 by default, but it's not a type of nominal code. So possibly some of you might be thinking that's a trick question from Matt there. Don't think that was intentional. Right, let's head back to question 2. So give yourself a point if you got that one. So question 2 was, what is the default chart of accounts range for sales? Now I've actually put the right range on mine there. So you may have noticed Matt's typo on the poll today. It's off to a good start. He had 4,000 to 4,099. It's actually 4,000 to 4,999. I can't see it, he can't type it. So that's the right one. If you're in doubt about that, obviously you could just pop into your chart of accounts. We'll be having a looking at the chart of accounts in round 2. So again, that's the right answer for that one. You might find we might have the odd person on the session today who may have totally revamped their chart of accounts, have their own nominal ledger structure, but by default, it is 4,000 to 4,999. Obviously, understanding that as well will help when it comes to adding new nominal codes into your nominal ledger. Next question, question 3 in this round. Where can you go to check your control accounts? So the answer was settings and control accounts. So control accounts are generally used where there's an automatic posting, or sometimes it's just used for default. So things like your debtors control account, your creditors control. You don't need to specify that nominal code when you're entering the likes of an invoice. It'll look at that list and that's where it will pick it up from. So settings, control accounts was the correct answer for that one. So hopefully you've done quite well in that round. We're going to hand back to Matt and we'll pick up on round 2.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Matt. Yeah, as Michael pointed out there, slight typo on the 4,099. I'd love to take credit for entering the questions into the poll, but unfortunately, I can't, as I can say with a wry smile. So let's move on to the next questions. You should be able to see my screen, and it's going to be on chart of accounts here. This is a picture round. You'll be glad to hear, a little bit different. So what is the picture? Well, it is now in front of you. So what does the term partial mean in this screen? What does the term partial mean on the screen there? So does it mean that one of the ranges is enclosed within another range? Ranges are overlapping onto each other? Nominal codes are not represented in the chart? A nominal code has been used as part of one floating category, but not part of the equivalent floating category, or any or all of the above? So when you see that word partial, what does it mean? Does it mean one of those or all of them? Again, this was covered in Jackie's final webinar before she moved to a different team within Sage. Still missing her dreadfully, but her parting webinar was on chart of accounts, and she went into detail about what that word partial does actually mean. We're very close to the 70% now, so if you are wondering what the answer could be, again, you are marking your own quiz here. So have a guess. You're just identifying a bit of knowledge that you need. So I'm going to close the poll there. Let's have a look at the majority where we went. So 57% went for any or all of the above. 38% nominal codes are not represented. 5% one range is enclosed within another. Again, Michael will go through those answers with you, maybe even show you. Next question. True or false? You can have multiple charts of accounts. So again, this is a 50-50 one, this. So true or false? You can have multiple charts of accounts. Again, covered by Jackie in a farewell webinar that she delivered. You may have even shown you an example on the screen of what the capabilities are. So true or false? You can have multiple chart of accounts. But it being 50-50, if you're unsure, again, have a guess. Brilliant, we've reached the 75%, so if you've got an answer, fire it away. I'm going to close the poll now and share these answers. Let's have a look at where the majority went. So the majority went true, saying you can have multiple chart of accounts. 5% believe false. Again, Michael will go through all of this. Next question. What is a floating category? So is it a category that can show on both the balance sheet and the profit and loss report? A category which can be an asset or a liability, depending on a debit or a credit balance, a group of nominal codes not included in the chart of accounts, or nominal codes causing errors in the chart of accounts. What could it be? So what is a floating category? Again, if you don't use this particular feature, then you may not know. You may want to form an educated guess on what it could be. There's not too much description I can go into without revealing potentially the answer. So forgive me on my silence on this question. But this is the final question of the chart of accounts round before we hand over to Michael. So just waiting on a couple more. Spot on. I'm going to close that poll and share with you where the majority went. So majority, 90% say it's a category. That can be an asset or a liability. 10% believe it could be a group of codes not included in the chart of accounts. Over to Michael for the answers to that round.
Thank you, Matt. Right, okay, let's get cracking with the answers. So first question, and I think I've got them in a slightly different order to the way Matt had them. So first question I've got in this round is true or false? You can have multiple charts of accounts. So the answer to that one is true. Many, many years ago, our help center or our help files at the time used to say you could have 64,000 different layouts. So it's as good as unlimited. We always say it's unlimited. I've never seen anyone get that far. It's quite common to have multiple charts of accounts layouts, just for things like, depends on the level of detail you want to show when you're generating the likes of a P&L or a balance sheet. So some might have it to break down their sales section. Some of our users will have a much more detailed breakdown of overheads. It just depends on that level of detail. So it's as good as unlimited. If you've only got the one and you haven't watched that chart of accounts webinar, do watch the recording. The link should be included on your follow-up email. Question 1, as Matt put it, or question 2 I'm going to cover. What does the term partial mean in this screen? So it actually means all of the above. So basically partial, and I'll show you this one in the software. It basically indicates you've got some errors. May just be one, maybe more. So I'll quickly show you that and how you can get rid of the term partial. It's quite a common query, that one. And these are all types of different errors that you could potentially have in your chart of accounts if you've amended it and it hasn't quite gone to plan, or maybe you haven't quite checked the detail, but there is a check option. So I'll quickly share my screen and show you this one. So if we pop into nominal codes, which are already there, into chart of accounts, and you'll see mine doesn't have the word partial. But if I edit the chart of accounts and I'll just amend one of the sales ranges so that it excludes some of my nominal codes. and we'll save the changes. You get a message incomplete. Again, if you ever get that, it just indicates there are some, at least one error in your chart of accounts. And when we OK that, you'll see I've now got the word partial. So if you do have that, make sure you've got the right one selected. Click Edit and just click the check option in the top corner there, top left. Now, when you get to the screen, there is the help option as well. So do use that help. If I just give it a click, it'll open the help panel down the right-hand side there. The first link there is to identify and correct errors in your chart of accounts. So it'll explain those in more detail. But if we just preview the chart of accounts errors window, we just send that output that to preview and click run, it will actually list the errors that you've got. So either print that, make a note of it, or just leave it on your screen and then refer back to that help information. And that will guide you through just to ensure that when you're running the likes of your P&L and your balance sheet, that the figures are accurate. It's not missing any figures and not double counting anything either. So if nothing else after today, go away and check your chart of accounts, see if it says partial or not. Right, let's pick up on the last question in this section, and is what is a floating category? So the correct answer to this one is it's a category which can be an asset or a liability depending on a debit or a credit balance. So that will be things like, by default, it would include things like your bank accounts by default, and also even your VAT liability. It can float between the two depending on what the balance is when it calculates. So on your balance sheet, if your bank account is a positive balance, for instance, got money in there, it would show as a positive asset if it's in the floating category. If it's overdrawn, it would show as a positive liability. So it floats between the two depending on what that balance is. So again, if you're not sure about that, it's probably the most complicated part of the chart of accounts. Do check out the recording that we've got on our recordings page. So with that, I'll hand you back to Matt, who will pick up on round 3.
There we are. Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael. Yeah, seems to be a bit of a gremlin in the system on the slides though, but all the answers are correct. So well done, Michael, for rescuing that. Now let's move on to round 3, shall we? And as you can see, it's trial balance, profit and loss, and balance sheet. A few questions more than the other rounds in this one. So pens at the ready. Let's begin. First question. Which of these reports uses the chart of accounts? So this is multi-answer, this one. So not just one, maybe 2 or 3, it's up to you. Which of these reports uses the chart of accounts? Trial balance, profit and loss, balance sheet. So when you do your year end, and you're running your reports, then you do your management reports. Can you remember which one of these, or which ones of these use the chart of accounts? Just multi-select, remember. Key point to this one. A lot of votes coming through. Superb, we're at 74 already. So what I'm going to do is just give it a couple of seconds. I'm going to close off that poll. Let's see where the majority went. So majority went 100% profit and loss. Everybody that answered picked that one. 89% for balance sheet and then 47% for balance. Next question. Does the profit and loss year to date include brought forward balances? Again, this is a yes or no one. So does the profit and loss, or P&L, year to date, YTD, include brought forward balances? And this is just a simple yes or no. It'll be appearing on your screens momentarily. As soon as it does, pick your answer, and we'll fly off to the next question. Rapid responses here as well. Superb. Just over half answered at the moment, so we shall be closing the poll shortly, I'd imagine, as the rest get their answers fired in, and they have done. So we are now at 70%. So if you haven't answered, you've got a few seconds just to quickly pick one. It's a 50-50. And we will close that poll and share the answers. 70-30 split. So 70% say no, and 30% say yes. Again, Michael will be going through these in detail with us momentarily. Next question. So if you run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, would the balances in the period column and year-to-date column be equal? This is a thought-provoking one, this. It's a yes or a no again, so if you are unsure, it's a 50-50. And remember, it's a friendly quiz. You're marking your own, so just be honest with your answer. But if you run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, would the balances in the period column and year-to-date column be equal? Yes or no? So on the poll, we had to put M1 to M12, and that's because of a character limitation. So that is month 1 to month 12, just in case you're wondering. We're not listing motorways or anything like that at all. Superb, some answers coming in there. We're already at the 70% mark. So just a few more seconds and I'll close that question off. So finally, if you run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, would the balances in the period column and year-to-date column be equal? I'm going to close that question now. Let's have a look at the answers. That's quite an even split there. 53% yes, 47% say no. Next question. You should see it in front of you now. Is can you run a profit and loss for the next financial year? So can you earn a P&L for the next financial year? Yes or no? Again, with it being 50-50, if you're unsure, have an educated stab at it. Answers are coming flying in again. I believe this is one of Michael's questions. He'll relish going through the answer with you, I'm sure. 70% have voted, so just a few more, and I shall close the poll for you. There we are. I'll close that poll. And let's have a look at where the majority went. So the majority say yes, you can run that profit and loss for the next financial year. 82%, 18% say no. Next question. And the final question of the round is, let's say you lost your profit and loss reports for last year. How can you get a copy? Again, multi-choice this one. How can you get a copy? So if you lost your profit and loss report for last year, how do you get a copy? Would you run a transactional profit and loss? You look at an archive, get a PDF copy, do a profit and loss brought forward balance, or restore into practice company or a blank data set. Again, multi-choice this one. So pick the ones you think are correct. So it's a hypothetical situation, but how would you recover from that? Got some brilliant answers coming through already. So just to go through the answers again, transactional profit and loss. Look at an archive, a PDF copy, P&L brought forward, or store into practice company or blank data set. A very quickly answered question, that one. We're already at 80%, so I'm going to be closing that poll and sharing the answers. That's where we went. The majority say archive, 94%, 71% PDF copy, 65%, and 53% for transactional profit and loss and restored to practice company, and 18% for P&L brought forward. To go through the answers, I'm going to pass over to Michael. He'll take it from here.
Thank you, Matt. Right, okay, let me just quickly share my screen. We'll run through those answers for you. Pleased to say on most of those, I was looking at the answers there and I'm thinking, most people have been paying attention. For those that haven't, there's always the recordings. We'll provide the links for you on the follow-up email. Just if you feel you need to brush up on your knowledge, those recordings are a great resource. Right, so let's start with question 1 in the round. Which of these reports uses the chart of accounts? So most of you got that right for the profit and loss. 89% of you that voted picked also the balance sheet, which those are the 2 correct answers. The trial balance doesn't use the chart of accounts. So basically the trial balance just gives you a list of any nominal code that has a balance for the period up to and including the period that you specify. So it doesn't use the chart of accounts, the trial balance. The other 2 do. And that's where that chart of account structure is used to help determine which nominal codes are picked up and obviously which ones are grouped together. Question 2. Does the profit and loss year to date include brought forward balances? Now, this I tried to emphasize many, many times on the live session. So 70% of you got this right, voting for no. And 30% of you, remember that recording is available. So it doesn't include brought forward. So the year to date for a profit and loss will always run from month 1. Doesn't matter what period you specify, it always runs from month 1 up to the end of the period you specify. So it doesn't include brought forward. So it's looking at essentially your financial year to date figures only. So no was the correct answer for that one. Next question. If you run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, so a similar theme to the other previous question. So if you run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, would the balances in the period column and year to date column be equal? And the correct answer to that one was no. So about 53% of you clicked on yes for that one. So just over half actually chose the wrong answer. Now, potentially they could be, but the way that those figures calculate, and I'll just quickly demonstrate this one as well. So let me pop across to my screen. We'll pop into nominal codes. We'll run a balance sheet and we'll just quickly preview it. We'll run it from month 1 to month 12. And as you can see, let's zoom in a bit. So the question was, if we're running it from month 1 to month 12, would the figure in the period column be the same as the year to date? And as you can see, they are different in this instance. So the period column, remember on your profit and loss and your balance sheet, it always calculates as per whatever period you specified, so month 1 to 12 in this case. That would be the case that it would be equal if you were running the P&L report, but not for the balance sheet. Balance sheet year to date includes brought forward. So that was the trick there. So there will be different. So there would potentially an instance where they may be equal, but generally there will be different, as year to date always runs and includes the brought forward balance up to and including the period that you specify. So in this case, it would be brought forward to month 12. So correct answer for that one was no. Right, next question. I'll find the right button. There we go. Can you run a profit and loss account or profit and loss report for the next financial year? And the answer to that one is yes. A couple of ways to do that. Now, one is restricted because of the level of software that you might be on. And one is, the first option, if you're on the standard or the professional level, is to run the transactional profit and loss report. With that one, you go into nominal codes, reports, choose the P&L folder, and then you would have the transactional profit and loss. And with that one, you can run that for whatever date range you want. So if you haven't yet run that year end, maybe you've got a bit of pressure, people asking for what's the profit and loss for the new financial year, you can actually get at that via that transactional profit and loss report. So you can run it for either full calendar months or you can run it for part months. So if I wanted to, I could run that from, say, the 10th of February to the 19th of October for a particular financial year. I'm not restricted to calendar months, which you would be if you were running the standard P&L report. The other option that was outlined in the webinar was to run the standard P&L report. And with that one, if you run your P&L report and you run it for the period future to future, it would actually show you potentially what the profit and loss figures are for your new financial year before you've actually got to run the year end for your current period. So that's another way around that, but it would just look at all future data transactions beyond the end of your current financial year. So if you've gone beyond the end of what would be your next financial year even, it would include those figures as well. So to be safe, transactional profit and loss would be the report to go for. And the final question in this round, you've lost your profit and loss report for last year. How can you get a copy? Now, you might remember there were quite a few options that we covered in the webinar on this one. So transactional profit and loss, yeah, you can run that one. You need to remember when you're running that report, or the trick was when you run it, you can run it for the previous financial year, but you need to remember that you need to exclude the ledger year-end transactions. So when you run the year-end, it will post a series of journals. You need to remember to exclude that from the criteria. So check running for date range and the transaction range. Otherwise, you'll find that your figures are going to be zero. The archive was the recommended option. Nice and easy. It would create an archive by default when you run that year end. So jumping back into an archive, it means you can run your reports for that particular, based around that financial year. So if you do need it, it's a nice, easy way to get at that. PDF copies, something we recommend as when you run the likes of a period end, such as a year end, month end, save copies of them. Just create a mini archive yourself of those PDF copies. Maybe pop them on your network so you can easily access them. So if you've got those available, if you remembered to do it, nice, easy option for you as well. The P&L brought forward, the reason you can't use that one, if you run it for the period brought forward to brought forward, what you'd find is that the only figures it would potentially find would be if you've made a correction to a previous financial year or you've maybe deleted a transaction. But otherwise, the P&L brought forward to brought forward, it would actually show zero. And then the final option, also a fairly new option, this one, restoring a backup into your practice company. So if you've got that backup that you took as part of maybe the year end, you can restore that directly into a practice company these days. And obviously it would let you use that, including the running of reports, referring to information, having a look at whatever you want, trying processes as well. And it means that you could run that P&L based on that data that you've restored into that. So that's a valid answer as well. So if you chose all those answers, let's say a point for each one. We'll be kind. Right, so that was the end of the answers for that round. Back to Matt.
Michael being super duper generous there. A point per answer on that one. I like it. Good mood on a Friday. So hopefully you will be able to see my screen in front of you momentarily, because we're heading into round 4, which is the penultimate round. And this one is on aged reconciliation reports. I'm sure you can see that now. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into the first question. Number 1. What should you do to ensure all customers are included in your aged debtors reports? So just to repeat that, what should you do to ensure all customers are included in your aged debtors reports? Should you select the records that currently have a balance, remove any filters, include inactive records, or click clear to ensure no records are selected? Multi-answer this one. Multi-answer. So pick the ones you believe are applicable. And because of Michael's generous mood, I believe each correct answer is going to be a point on this one for you as well. So what should you do to ensure all customers are included in your aged debtors reports? Brilliant answers coming in so far. Michael nodding along and I'm nodding along as well. This is good. So we've got 64% now voted. A couple more, there we go. So I'll give you 3 seconds and I'm going to close the poll. So choose all the relevant ones and we'll move on to the next question after we've shared the results. Let's have a look. So the majority, remove any filters. 94% click clear to ensure no records are selected. 78% include inactive record and 17% for select records with a balance. Next question. To retrospectively calculate your aged debtors, what should you do when running the report? So to retrospectively calculate your aged debtors, what should you do when running the report? Should you ensure you run the report for the correct period? Select the tick box to include future transactions. Select the tick box to exclude later payments. Multi-answer here. So pick all the ones you deem applicable again. So if you're going to retrospectively calculate your aged debtors, what would you do when running the report? Ensure you run the report for the correct period. Select the tick box to include future transactions. Select the tick box to exclude later payments. So it could be 1, 2, or 3, all answers. Up to you. Superb. Just waiting on the last few. Excellent. So I'm going to close that poll in just a few seconds and we'll share the responses. There we are. So 94% believe ensuring you report for the correct period, 82% selecting the tick box to exclude later payments, and 18% go for select the tick box to include future transactions. Again, Michael will go through the answers with you after this final question of the round. So when comparing the trial balance to the balance sheet, why would the debtors figure be different? So when comparing the trial balance to the balance sheet, why would the debtors figure be different? Journals have been posted to the debtors control account, errors in the chart of accounts, or a filter has been applied to the nominal list. This is a one answer question, this. So if journals being posted to the debtors control account, is there errors in the chart of accounts, or a filter has been applied to the nominal list? I can see that the answers have begun coming in there, filtering in. Excellent. Over half have voted, so if you're thinking about it, get a vote in now, because the poll will be closing shortly. And again, as it's a friendly quiz, not to emphasize the point too much, but it might just be a knowledge gap. You might just need to revisit the webinar. It's 68%. And we are going to close that poll and share the responses. So 63% believe journals have been posted to the debtors control account, 30% errors in the chart of accounts, 25% a filter has been applied to the nominal list. And with that, what we'll do is hand over to Michael, who shall go through the answers with you.
Thank you, Matt. Right, let me just try and grab the screen. I think I'm stuck here. Just bear me one moment. Just bear me one more. Having a little technical problem there of me getting control of the screen there. Just quickly hand back to Matt for a second. Right, I'll run through the answers while we're trying to sort the screen out. Right, so round 4, the answers to the age reconciliation questions. So what should you do to ensure all customers are included in your age debtor reports? So answers were: select the records that currently have a balance, remove any filters, include inactive records, or click clear to ensure no records are selected. So the correct answers to that one were to remove any filters, so making sure that none of your customers are actually hidden. Second correct answer, or the second correct step is to make sure you include inactive records. So the reason for that one is a customer may have a zero balance now and you've flagged them as zero balance, or you flagged them as being inactive, but maybe they had a balance at the time when they weren't inactive. I'm having a few technical problems with the screens today. And then the final answer was, which was correct as well, is click clear to ensure no records are selected. So I'll just quickly share my screen with you at that point. Yeah, I think we're back to where we should be now. There we go. I think I upgraded my laptop last weekend to Windows 11, and we've had a few glitchy problems since then with regard to sharing screens and getting microphones to work, so apologies for that one. Anyway, I'll quickly share my screen and we'll run through that one just as a bit of a reminder. So this is the set of data I used the other day to demonstrate reconciling your age debtors and age creditors against the likes of your trial balance and your balance sheet. So before you run your age debtors report, now the reason we say don't just select the ones that have a balance. It could be that an account had a balance at the time, but it doesn't now. So if you're trying to run it retrospectively, make sure that you've got nothing selected. So first of all, remove any filters. You need it to say all records at the top here. If you've got a filter applied, you can always go into filter and just clear it, clicking the option in the top left, then clicking apply. And if you then just close that, it should say all records. You want to make sure you tick the box to include inactive records. So this little one here, really simple feature, that one, really effective. But again, when it comes to reconciling your aged reports, you need to tick it. You can see this one has just reappeared at that point. It's flagged as inactive, has a zero balance currently, but did it have a zero balance at the time? So when I'm trying to run the report, if I'm trying to run it retrospectively, I want to make sure these accounts are entered. And finally, the final option there was just to click clear to ensure that no records are selected. So if you've got any records selected, it will base your report only on those highlighted records. So don't get caught out by that. Right, let's see if we can get back to the slides this time. Find the right button. There we go. So a question was, to retrospectively calculate your age debtors, what should you do when running the report? So again, sounds obvious, this one. Ensure you're running the report for the correct period. If you're trying to reconcile the likes against the likes of your trial balance or your balance sheet, those two reports are based around calendar months. So if you've got a month that runs to the 31st, make sure when you're running your aged reports that you're running it for the same period. You haven't inadvertently specified, I want to run that to the 30th of the month. It's a very common query, that one. Common reason for them being different balances as well. The other one, so that you can run it retrospectively to see what was outstanding at the time. Again, this is the one I always wish this box was ticked. It would solve so many potential queries. Select that checkbox to exclude later payments. So it's forms part of that criteria when you're running that report. So if you've got those two, as it's Friday, come on, we'll give you a point for each one. And then the final question in this round was, when comparing the trial balance to the balance sheet, why would the debtors figure be different? Now, I think there's slight wording or slight discrepancy in the wording of this one. The correct one should just be the chart of accounts is different. So not necessarily errors in the chart of accounts, but the balance sheet uses the chart of accounts. So in your debtors figure on your balance sheet, it may be that you've got more than one nominal code included. So it's the chart of accounts for that difference. So not journals. It's not the fact that journals are being posted to your debtors control, as both the trial balance and the balance sheet. Essentially, they're based around the same figures. They use the same monthly balances to generate. It's not a filter that's been applied to the nominal list. Although you can apply a filter in nominals, not much you can do with that, but it's not going to affect your trial balance or your balance sheet the way it calculates. So it's the chart of accounts that would cause that discrepancy. So that was the final question from that round. Hopefully you did well. And we'll pass back to Matt. Hopefully we'll be able to swap screens smoothly this time.
Look at that, brilliant. Super brilliant screen transition from Michael to myself there. Smooth as Lurpak. Happy days. So this is the final round, and this is the round of redemption. So if you've had a torrid time of it in the first 4 rounds, this is where you can get those marks back to where they need to be. If you are high flying from the first 4 rounds, then this is all about maintenance. All about maintaining that strong streak moving forward. So let's head into it. This is round 5 on business dashboards. First question. It's an interesting question. What is the primary purpose of the business dashboard? What's its primary purpose? To manage customer interactions, to provide key business data at a glance, to create invoices, or to track employee performance? Singular answer, this one. So this was Abby's webinar from yesterday. I believe at the first part of the webinar, it's discussed what is the purpose of it. I mean, even if you were to have your Sage 50 open now and had a quick glance at the dashboard, what would it show you? Would it show you how to manage customer interactions? Would it provide you with key business data at a glance? Would it create invoices? Or would it help you track employee performance? Superb. Brilliant. We have 70% of votes in, so I'm going to close the poll. If you haven't voted, we've got a few seconds left. There we have it. Let's see where the majority went. Well, the majority is everybody. 100% to provide key business data at a glance. Next question. How do you ensure your dashboard information is up to date? How do you ensure your dashboard information is up to date? Close and reopen. Press F5 on the keyboard. Click refresh. Which one of those would you have? So how do you ensure your dashboard information is fully up to date? We have 30% so far and rising. As soon as we get to 70, let us know. Excellent, 61% so far. Super duper. So we're going to be closing this shortly. And there we have it. Let's have a look and see where the results went. Perfect for Michael to go through the answers with you in just a jot. So we had 11% close and reopen, 83% click and refresh, and 6% F5 on the keyboard. Next question. How do you export your dashboard? How do you export the dashboard? Do you take a backup? Click on the camera icon or click Send to Excel? Which one is it? How do you export the dashboard? Should be on your screens in around about 5 seconds time. The answers are to take a backup, click on the camera icon, or click Send to Excel. Again, if you were at this webinar, it could be fresh in your memory. If you're using dashboards already, you may know this straight away. Or could you have your program open and have a quick look? Again, up to you. Have no fear if you've got a couple wrong over the last few questions. After this one, we have a very exciting question for the final question of the quiz. It is probably the hardest question that has ever been asked in the history of badging webinars. I'll reveal that to you after 70% have voted, which they have. So I'm going to close the poll now. And let's go through the answers. Well, let's see where the majority went, should I say. So 56% click on the camera icon, 38% click Send to Excel, 6% say take a backup. Now, the hardest question that has ever been asked is about to be asked. It is that difficult, we are putting double points on the answer. So if you're ready, here it is. Have you used the dashboard yet? Got two answers there, yes or no. Have you used the dashboard yet? I will allow, because of the difficulty of the question, I will allow practice or testing to be included in the yes section. So have you used the dashboard yet? Yes or no? Double points. Superb answers flying in. 78%, 83% now have voted. A few more seconds with being a 50-50 question and being worth double points. I'm going to close that poll now. There we have it. So let's see where the majority went. The majority, 63% said yes, and 37% said no. Which is superb honesty for everybody there. What I'm going to do now is hide that poll. I'm going to hand over to Michael for the answers.
Thank you, Matt. Right, very aware of the time, and I'm sure many of you want to get away for lunches, with it being Friday. So we'll quickly run through the answers. Let me quickly share my screen as well, so we got the right one displayed there. So business dashboards. First question: what is the primary purpose of the business dashboard? So like with most dashboards, the idea is to provide you with an overview of certain information. So correct answer there, to provide key business data at a glance. If you've not used them yet, picking up on that final question that Matt asked, have a go of it. So that's it, to provide key business data at a glance. Nice and easy to access, and you can choose what information you want to include. Second question, how do you ensure your dashboard information is up to date? Now, what we were looking for was click refresh, because there is a refresh option within the dashboard screen, but also equally closing out of the dashboard and re-accessing it. Every time you access that dashboard, it will reread your data. So if you simply closing out of the dashboard and reopening it will ensure that your data is up to date. So F5, I don't think anyone fell for that one. F5 normally refreshes the web page, but it doesn't refresh your dashboard. So options 1 and 3 there were the correct answers. Next question, how do you export your dashboard? Correct answer on that one. Top right-hand corner within the dashboard screen, you have a little camera icon that will copy the dashboard to clipboard, and you can paste that as an image into like a spreadsheet, or if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, or even just onto an email. It will allow you to paste that straight in. Trick question there, taking a backup trick answers there, I should say, taking a backup and clicking send to Excel. There is no send to Excel option in that screen. It's one of the few areas of Sage where you don't actually have that option. So the correct answer, option 2, use the camera icon. And then that final question, really just so we could see who has used it and who hasn't. No correct answer there, but we're going to give you points if you click yes. If you haven't yet used it, give it a try. It's literally within your software. I'll quickly show you where to click if you haven't used it yet. So within your software, you've got the business dashboard on your toolbar, top left corner. It's about the third option down. Give it a click. If you've got dashboards already set up, it'll take you in and you can add new dashboards. If you don't, it should give you options to create your first dashboards. So there'll be one for your business, one around your customers, one around your suppliers, but they can all be modified. It'll take you about 1 minute to set up your first dashboard, and it should be 1 minute max as well. So give it a go after today's session. Hopefully the 37% of you that said you hadn't used it yet, we'll get you using it a little bit. So with that brings us to the end of the answers there for the final round. We'll pass back to Matt, just to wrap things up.
Thank you very much, Michael. And I like my new name, Mac. That's fantastic. I might go on Deed poll later on. So thank you, everybody, for joining today's quiz. All good, bit of fun. If you put in the questions area what your scores were, that would be great. We love to see how you scored, even if it was a low score. We're not going to share the scores with anybody whatsoever, but you can do. Just a bit of fun again. Now, it's not the end of the badging sessions. We are running more. You'll be very pleased to hear that. I'm going to do now is share you a short video on the next badging session. And that video itself, bear with me just a moment, is going to be available for you to watch. It'll take around about a minute of your time. I'll be back with you shortly.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael and I'm here to tell you about our upcoming series of VAT proficiency webinars. Session 1 focuses on tax codes. Do you understand the difference between T0, T2 and T9? It's a common support query. If not, come along and we'll get you up to speed. Session 2 looks at preparing and running through the VAT return wizard up to the reconciliation stage. Session 3 follows on very closely from this as we run through the tasks in step 3 of the VAT return wizard. These include posting VAT transfer journals, entering your payment or receipt, and of course the process of submitting your return online to HMRC. In session 4 we'll highlight some of the most common queries that we regularly support our customers with. And in session 5 we'll dive into the VAT verification checks that form part of the VAT return wizard. Session 6 explores the process of checking your VAT return using the key reports that are available in Sage 50 accounts. Our final session looks at corrections, and if you need to post one, what the impact is. As you can see, there's a wide range of topics available.
And don't forget our mandatory quiz. Attend 6 of the 7 topics plus the quiz to earn your badge. These sessions run from the 9th to the 20th of June. As usual, these are free to attend. All you have to do is visit our registration page and get yourself registered. Once you earn your badge, you can share your achievements through our new badging platform, Accredible. Get yourself registered and we'll see you there.
Excellent. So with that, just want to say a massive thank you to you all. Some brilliant scores have been posted in the chat. What you can also do is fill in the survey at the end and send us your scores. Also send us ideas for other badges that you'd like to earn. How you think the badging webinars went as well would be superb. But I'm going to let you all go now, if that's okay. Go and enjoy your lunches, go and enjoy your weekends. Again, a big thank you from me and Michael, and we'll see you for VAT Badging 2025. Bye for now.